You believe that others think like you, but this is not always true, and that causes problems in your life. Your bosses have the same defect, and that causes problems at work. Your political leaders have the same defect, and that causes problems at national level. And this affects us in all spheres of life, okay? Social, socio-political, personal, intimate, professional, everything, right? So we will look at each one of them in turn, so you understand this serious problem, and the more you understand it, the better you will be able to deal with it.
Okay, that basically covers almost my entire life.
Yes, that's why this is so important. Although it is something you probably haven't heard of, this concept is called projection. Let's start with social projection. Okay. The basic point there is that to a thief, everyone seems to be a thief.
Hold on, this sounds better in Hindi. चोर को दुनिया चोर ही नजर आती है.
Absolutely. And although this is like a funny proverb, but in reality it is true. There is lots and lots of psychological research showing this, right?
Okay.
Let us take a very simple example of one specific research. Okay. So subjects in this research were given a situation. Okay. They were told that they are driving and they made an actual mistake and they were stopped by a traffic cop and they were given a traffic ticket. Okay. Now, in the US, where this research happened, you don't pay the ticket immediately, right? You take the ticket, you go home, you can pay for it. Or if you choose, you can contest it in court by appearing at a specific date.
Correct.
All right, fine. Now, you know that you actually made that mistake. So you should be paying that fine. But when you see the ticket that was written out by the cop, you notice that he made some basic mistakes. Like that ticket.
Yeah, putting in the wrong section or whatever.
Something, right? Now you have a choice, right? You could go to court and contest it and you will probably win. Even though you actually made that mistake. Then the subjects are asked these two questions. One, what would you do? Would you pay the ticket or would you contest it?
Okay.
And second is, what do you think most other people will do?
I would definitely pay the ticket because I made a mistake, I have to pay for it. And other people should also or would also, I think, pay for the ticket because they made a mistake, they would pay for it.
Correct. The point is that when you analyze the research, you see that the people who would pay the ticket also think that most other people will pay the ticket, whereas the people who say they will contest it also think that most other people will contest it. Right? Both people are wrong because if the level of paying the ticket is this much, right? The people who will pay the ticket think it is here, and the people who say they will not pay the ticket think it is here, right? Both sets of people are projecting, which is that they assume that other people are like them, right? And this generalizes, right? Basically, ethical people think that sure, there are some unethical people, but most people are ethical like me. But unethical people think, sure, there are some Sant Mahatma types out there, but most people are like me. They would take similar decisions. So research shows similar results for almost all beliefs and behaviors. Okay? Let me go through examples. And I want you to think and notice that you are probably doing the same thing in your life. Okay. So at a personal level, people who are party goers and love going to a party think that everyone else wants to party. Whereas people who are shy don't understand these party goers, but think they're a small fraction and that most others are like them and would like to just be quiet. Right?
Absolutely agreed.
People who go to restaurants with nice music love going to restaurants like that and don't understand why somebody would go to a quiet restaurant, whereas people who love quiet restaurants don't understand why somebody would go to these loud check restaurants, right? People who get angry very quickly think, yeah, that's normal, everyone does that. And probably everyone should do that, you should get angry over certain things. People who have emotional needs, who tend to get depressed, think that everyone else will be like them, right? And research shows this. Specifically, people who think of dying a lot think that lots of other people also think of dying a lot.
You mean people don't think of dying?
Yes. So this also happens at a social level, right? People who think TV shows are important, right? Soap operas are important. People who love a particular sport, they think everyone loves that sport. People who think a particular religion is very important or certain practices are important, overestimate how many people believe in that same thing, right? People who gossip think that other people are gossiping about them.
Okay.
Right? And this causes various problems related to self-image, insecurity, anxiety, and goes all the way to depression, just because you don't realize that most people are not like you and they're not spending their time gossiping.
This episode is proving to be an introspection into my own life that I did not want, but I'm getting nonetheless. But very, very interesting, because all of the things that you've mentioned also correlate to something that I've heard a lot called as the main character syndrome. What I've realized is every single one of us has this main character syndrome, which is essentially us projecting our thoughts, beliefs, expectations onto the rest of the world.
Yes. That happens, and the thing I want to get across is that this causes subtle problems that we don't realize we are causing ourselves,
like
by misunderstanding, right? So for example, in a professional setting, competitive people think everybody is competitive, and so they're all the time, they are like in fighting mode, and they end up causing fights even if the other person was not competitive, right? People who think it is okay to waste time at work, right? That sitting in an office doing nothing is completely normal, think that everyone else does that.
Listen, sometimes you finish work within an hour and you have 7 hours left to do nothing.
And you overestimate how many people are in the same category, right?
Okay, fine, that I agree.
And by the way, although I'm just stating these as opinions, but each one of these lines, there is research proving that these kind of overestimations are happening, right? Socio-political, right? This is now again research is US specific, but I'm sure it applies to India.
Right.
People who think that there should be a woman chief justice think that most other people agree with them. People who think that poverty will be reduced in the next 20 years overestimate how many other people think like them. Right? This also happens in close relationships, right?
Okay.
Like your inner circle of 5 people that we talked about in the
Dunbar number,
but also like your actual relationship, your spouse or your long-term relationship, right? So for example, cheaters are more likely to suspect their partners of cheating. Even when the partners are not cheating at all.
Cheaters are projecting.
Yes. So this gets more tricky than that. Okay. Let me take a fictional example.
Okay.
Rahul and Kiran. Okay.
Okay.
Rahul gets angry and is jealous.
Okay.
Okay. If Kiran doesn't get angry and jealous, what does Rahul think? Rahul assumes that because he loves Kiran so much, that's why he's getting angry and jealous.
Right.
And when Kiran doesn't get angry and jealous, Rahul assumes she doesn't love him as much.
That's in fact also somewhat the premise of the movie, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So Rahul getting angry and jealous and then expecting Kiran to get angry and jealous is him projecting his insecurities about their love or their relationship.
Exactly. Let's take another possibility here, right? Let's say Rahul cheats and his thing is that to hide his cheating, he's extra sweet to Kiran.
Okay.
Alright? So now, if Kiran is sweet to Rahul just because she's a sweet person, what will Rahul think? He assumes that she just cheated. This is projection and it can seriously wreck relationships until you realize this is what is going on and you talk it out. Right?
Absolutely.
Another type of close relationship is parents who project their own goals upon their children. Right?
You can just say Indian parents.
Indian parents, right? Because they wanted to do XYZ and couldn't, they assume that their children want to do the same thing and will be happy doing that in their life. The important point to note here is that often they don't realize they're doing this. They will very clearly state that I am only thinking about the child's best interest. I am not at all putting myself in the equation.
Yeah.
This is something that happens with projection. It happens so automatically, you don't realize you're doing it.
Yeah, and you have to consciously break this cycle is what I've realized in recent times, that you have to actively think about how you are very subtly, unconsciously, subconsciously becoming a part of the cycle every time you express a desire for your kid to do something.
Yeah.
It's a very, very dangerous and very difficult situation, and I commend all parents out there, especially Naveen, because he's done a brilliant job with his kids, as I can tell you for sure. And I'm trying to learn from him, as you can see.
So not just personal relationships, this also happens at work. And there is an additional problem here that I want to illustrate with a simple example. Okay. A boss who is unethical assumes that employees are unethical.
Yeah.
So she starts treating the employees in a certain way.
Yeah.
Right? Now, at some point, the employees themselves see, oh my God, this is like, why am I being treated like this? And if I'm being treated like this, might as well get the advantage of all of that, right?
Yeah.
So then they start actually behaving in unethical ways, and then it escalates, like you said, right?
Yeah.
The point is, what's happening here is that this relationship is getting stuck in a defect loop of a prisoner's dilemma. Right? I'm not going to explain in detail here. Check out our episode on prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah.
But the point is that when you project, especially some of your bad attributes on someone else, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay? There is actual research showing that when a cheating partner suspects their partner of cheating, the other person at some point actually goes ahead and cheats because, the relationship has reached that level.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I wonder how this will apply to parents and kids and their projections on kids. It's a very interesting thing, a thought experiment for you to think about while we continue with this episode.
So, more generally, do this thought experiment in every situation that you can think about, and you will find interesting things to learn. So in politics, right, one of the things that happens every once in a while is, say for example, there is like a very strong anti-gay rights crusader, and then at some point you find out that he was himself gay, right?
Yeah. We've seen that happen multiple times in multiple places.
Correct. And a strong anti-drug leader turns out to be someone who is misusing drugs, right? So because of such projections, a lot of incorrect policies get enacted, right? The reverse is also true. Voters also do projection, okay?
Oh, is that?
So there is research showing the following, okay? Let's say that there is a voter and he loves a particular party, so he wants to vote for that party.
Okay.
Then Chernobyl happens. Okay.
Ooh, okay.
I wasn't talking about today's voter and today's party, by the way. I'm just describing specific one particular research paper, but the thing is applicable even today. Okay.
Yeah. Every time Naveen gives an example, you can best believe that that example has been condensed from an actual research paper.
Yeah.
Nothing that we talk on this channel is randomly thought of examples. Everything has its root in specific science and specific research.
The more interesting thing to point out is that I was talking about Chernobyl and you guys assumed I was talking about the BJP. Okay, that's projection.
That's projection.
So anyway, when Chernobyl happens, suddenly some voters get strongly anti-nuclear power.
Right.
Okay. And some voters say, no, this was a one-off, and they continue to be pro-nuclear. Okay. So now voters are split between anti and pro-nuclear.
Correct. Of the same party.
Yeah. Now at some point, the party comes out with a stance saying we are pro-nuclear or we are anti.
Okay.
The voter had already decided on a stance beforehand.
Correct.
Now, if the party came out with the same stance, everything is good, voter continues voting for the favorite party. Yeah. But if the party stance is opposite of what the voter wanted, now what happens? Okay?
Yeah.
Here is what the research showed.
This is interesting because now the voter is in a very weird state where one of their beliefs doesn't align with one of the party's beliefs.
Correct.
So what does the voter do?
Yeah, by the way, this is a concept called cognitive dissonance, an extremely important concept. We will cover it in a future episode, but today let's focus on what does the voter do.
In this situation.
38% of the voters changed their stance on nuclear from pro to anti or anti to pro.
This is a stance that they had already built for themselves after Chernobyl happened.
But before their party came out with a stance,
Ha.
and as soon as the party came out with a stance, they flipped their own stance. This is group conformism. We have a video on it. Check it out.
Yeah.
A very, very important, powerful force today.
Yes.
The interesting one related to today's episode is 28% of the voters
Yeah.
just simply assumed that their party supports their stance and that media is misunderstanding, misrepresenting the party. They just perceived their party to be supporting their stance. This misperception that their party's stance is the same as their stance, this is projection. Okay?
Yeah.
And this is made easier by parties who understand this, and hence they will intentionally keep their stances vague. They will sometimes have one party leader say something and one party leader say the opposite thing so that voters can continue in their delusion of projection. Okay? You try to look at examples today and you will find enough examples of this happening, both the projection and the parties saying both things, right? So
Yeah.
this is another powerful force, and I mean, you are doing that, it is happening to you, and parties are misusing it.
Yeah, this actually brings me to another thing that we have not very specifically talked about in the past, but we probably will at some point, called the fundamental attribution error.
Yeah.
Now, the fundamental attribution error is we judge ourselves by our intent and others by their actions.
Yeah.
So here we are not projecting, but we are in fact doing the opposite of projecting, where we are judging others opposite to what we are doing ourselves.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile projection with fundamental attribution error?
Yeah. So actually it is not the opposite, right? Fundamental attribution error is saying that, when I lie, it is because, I was in a really difficult situation and something horrible would have happened if I didn't lie. So there was a good reason for me to lie. And when you lie, it is because you are a bad person.
Okay.
Right? So in fundamental attribution error, what is happening is that you look at bad behavior of other people and you attribute it to bad character traits.
Okay.
Okay? Keep that in mind. And you assume that you don't have bad character traits. Your bad behavior is because of circumstances. These bad character traits which you have and which you have suppressed successfully. In projection, you're assuming that most other people have these bad character traits. Okay? So what is happening here is that you don't realize you have these bad character traits, but you think that person has this bad character trait, and then later on you use the existence of that bad character trait to explain that person's bad behavior, right?
So you are invisibly projecting your bad character traits onto the other person. You are not acknowledging that projection, but you are utilizing that projection when the fundamental attribution error comes up.
Exactly.
Oh.
Right? So in your own behavior, you hide the bad character trait and you say my bad behavior happened because of circumstances. But for others, you first project the bad character trait on them and then you use that to explain their behavior without thinking about the other person's circumstances.
Human psychology is so weird, I tell
Fascinating, fascinating. And the more you are able to push yourself to think consciously about these things, the more your relationships will improve. Not just that, but your understanding of the world, of your workplace, of the politics happening there will also improve, right? That is why we do these episodes. To summarize, okay, this is not something new, okay? So let me read 2 quotes related to this which will drive the point home, okay? So first one is by Rob Henderson and he says, often when people espouse the belief that everyone is a scheming liar or that people can't be trusted, they're really telling you something about themselves rather than about everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Projection.
Okay. And the consequence of this, okay, Nietzsche has said, I am not upset that you lied to me. I am upset that from now on I cannot believe you.
Ouch.
Okay. to repeat, when you talk about others, you're talking about yourself, which means that you can change yourself by changing how you talk about others.
And that is a brilliant takeaway for you to think about while we line up the next episode for you, which we briefly spoke about, the evolution of trust, prisoner's dilemma. Check that episode out, because that will help you understand projection in a completely different and a completely new light.
And it will help you become a better person.
Yeah. Shrikant, better person Naveen, better channel FutureIQ.